Manx Radio's Update with Beth Espy.
Well, first, my good evening. Welcome to Update here on Manx Radio. We'll take you through the main news over the next half hour. And first, we'll have the very latest following the sad news that a Year 9 pupil at Ballakermeen High School has died unexpectedly. Also tonight, could we be getting an Iceland store? What's being done to improve bus access for people who use mobility scooters around the island? The DOI apologises to housing tenants over the tone of a recent letter about rent arrears. And there's a new consultation looking at how to make broadband more affordable for those who struggle with the cost. We'll also look at the weather, the traffic and the travel. And as ever, if you'd like to get in touch, you can email studio@manxradio.com or you can text us. It's 166 177. We'll start with the latest news headlines with Siobhan Fastamai.
Police have confirmed an investigation is underway on behalf of the coroner of inquests following the death of a pupil from Ballakermeen High School. The Isle of Man Constabulary says the Year 9 student died outside of the school environment and the death is currently being treated as unexplained. The island's communications regulator has unveiled plans for a new affordable broadband tariff. Cura's essential use broadband proposal would cost £16.82 per month based on wholesale prices and provide speeds of 10 megabits per second. The Infrastructure Minister says her department is working to create 3 new mobility scooter-friendly bus routes and she hopes they'll be open and usable by the end of the year. Here's Minister Michelle Haywood.
Highways are busy looking at the height of the curbs to check if it's okay and it's safe to deploy ramps. And what we need to do is put together information for the users so they know which stops in which direction are accessible for them. So we're working at pace and I am hoping that those routes will be opened up by the end of the year. We'll be able to provide appropriate user information so that people will know which stops they can get on and off at.
Plans have been lodged for a new Iceland retail outlet at Spring Valley Trading Estate in Braddon. The proposal, submitted by the Isle of Man Development Company, would see a 1,247 square metre retail warehouse built on Cool Road. And Stena Line has chartered the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company's former flagship vessel, Ben McCree, to operate a temporary route this winter between Fishguard and Rosslare. It's as the Swedish ferry operator is due to carry out essential work on its ships and Fishguard port. Further afield, China's foreign ministry claims it's being smeared and vilified over the collapse of a trial against 2 alleged spies in the UK. The first conviction linked to the Post Office's capture software has been formally referred to the Court of Appeal. We're told Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin will speak later, a day before Ukraine's president visits Washington. And a museum in Germany says it's seen hundreds of Taylor Swift fans visiting after her new album was released. It says a painting there looks similar to the one in her video for her new single, The Fate of Ophelia. They're your headlines. News at 6.
Thank you very much indeed, Siobhan. Now the weather brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing. Pretty similar as it has been all week. It's going to be dry but overcast this evening. Light winds, minimum temperatures around 8 overnight. Similar tomorrow, largely cloudy but dry. Winds remaining light with temperatures up to around 13. Dry for much of Saturday, but an area of rain is going to move in from the west later in the day or overnight into Sunday. That is going to be heavy at times and there'll be fresh to strong southeast winds. Top temperatures at the weekend around 14 Celsius. Sunset this evening 6:20. Sunrise tomorrow morning 7:49.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
Cruise Bereavement Support Isle of Man offers free and confidential support for anyone grieving, but we can't do it alone. Donate 10 to Cruise and your £10 will help children, young people and adults. Go to cruise.org.im to make a donation.
Visit SMS Trading at 3 St Paul's Square, Ramsey. For flat pack to fully built, new or second-hand furniture, SMS Trading offer all island delivery and man in a van service. Call 315151 or find SMS Trading on Facebook.
At Begode Cattery, we have been caring for animals for over 50 years. As a cattery, we care for customers' cats and treat them as our own. Contact Begode Cattery on 676 947 or find Begode Cattery on Facebook.
Craving authentic Filipino flavours? Visit Casalo Filipino Cuisine. We cook with love and passion. Open Tuesday to Saturday from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Eat in or take away. 66 Box Road, Douglas, or call 333 690.
You're listening to Update here on Manx Radio. It's just coming up to 5 past 5. Now, as we just heard in the news headlines, police have confirmed an investigation is underway on behalf of the coroner of inquests following the death of a pupil from Ballakermeen High School. Lewis has the details.
In a letter to parents last night, head teacher at Ballakermeen High School, Graham Corrin, confirmed that a Year 9 student had died unexpectedly. A bereavement response team attended the secondary school today to offer support and talk things through with any pupils who needed it. The team will also be providing further support and guidance over the coming days. Meanwhile, the Isle of Man Constabulary has also issued a statement confirming the pupil died outside of the school environment and the death is currently being treated as unexplained. Officers are asking that the privacy of the family is respected and people refrain from speculating at this time. Mr. Corrin says, "Our thoughts are with the student's family at this extremely sad time. When someone dies, it's normal for their friends and family to experience lots of different feelings like sadness, anger and confusion. Anyone with any concerns who would like to talk to the school is told not to hesitate and to call the school office on 648700.
Lewis Foster reporting. And if you've been affected by this news, you can find help and guidance to support. Just go to manxradio.com/support. 6 minutes past 5, and Stena Line has chartered the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company's former flagship vessel Ben McCree to operate a temporary route between Fishguard in Wales and Rosslare in Ireland. Now, this comes as the Swedish ferry operator is due to carry out essential work on its ships and Fishguard port, as Siobhan reports.
The Ben McCree will run the company's Fishguard to Rosslare service from the 3rd to the 20th of November, whilst the Stena Nordica covers the Dublin Holyhead route for the Stena Estrid. Fishguard Port is then due to close for planned maintenance, with the Ben McCree then briefly running again before the Stena Nordica returns on the 7th of December. A Stena Line spokesperson told the Pembrokeshire Herald, "These temporary arrangements allow us to complete maintenance whilst keeping passenger and freight services available. Our staff at Fishguard will be on hand to help customers." Manx Radio has contacted the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company for comment.
Siobhan reporting there. 7 minutes past 5. Now, we've heard today that the Isle of Man Communications Regulator is asking for views on plans to make broadband more affordable for those who are struggling with the cost of access. Cura has launched this consultation on a new essential use broadband product. Christian is with me now. Fastamai Christian. So, first of all, just tell me what exactly is being proposed here.
Yeah, Fastamai Beth. Well, Cura's proposal is for a low-cost broadband tariff that would allow people to carry out kind of essential online activities like accessing healthcare, banking, education, government services, those sorts of things. It follows an instruction from Timor last year to make sure that affordability doesn't actually prevent people from getting online.
OK, so do we know how this new product would work in practice?
Yeah, so all fixed broadband operators who are using Manx Telecom's wholesale network would be required to offer it. The service would be priced at £16.82 per month, which is the wholesale cost of provision, so providers wouldn't be making a profit on it. And it would offer speeds of around 10 megabits per second download, 1 megabit per second upload. So enough for kind of basic things, but not like high definition streaming or gaming.
OK, so do we know if it's just for people on low incomes or could anyone sign up for this?
Yeah, that's actually one of the key differences from similar schemes elsewhere. So Cura's version would be open to everyone. So there's no eligibility checks. It's no means testing either. Customers could switch in or out of the tariff at any time and without penalties or contract commitments. So the idea is actually to make it a kind of a safety net for people who might temporarily need a cheaper connection.
And how significant could this be, do you think, for digital inclusion on the island?
Well, that is the thing. Cura says it should help ensure that no one is left behind as more and more services increasingly become online. The regulator estimates that only a small number of households would use it, but it believes the measure would still play an important role in kind of bridging that digital divide.
And the whole point of this, people can have their say on these plans.
Yeah, absolutely. The consultation is open until the 27th of November. Cura says it will publish its final decision once all responses have been reviewed. And if you want to send a response, the details can be found over at manxradio.com.
Christian, thank you very much indeed. It is coming up to 5:10. A Ramsey man's been left disappointed after finding out his 6-year fight to be able to take his mobility scooter onto a bus is going to be further delayed. Eric Corkish claims his human rights have been violated over this. Last month, the DOI Minister, Dr Michelle Haywood, spoke with him live on the Man in Line, saying more information would be made in the coming weeks. Since then, he says he's received an email from the Minister saying she can't provide a timeline on this.
So I got an email from her about an hour or so after the Man Line was on, saying that she can now offer no timeline. She's working with people in Bus Bannon, but right at this moment there is no timeline. So I have no idea now of when there's a possibility of getting onto a bus. And she says, rest assured, they're doing everything they can. I've rested assured for the last 6 years. It's just getting to stupidity again. The last 6 years, you've had Ray Harmer, Tim Baker, Tim Krukol, Chris Thomas, Alf Cannon, Tim Krukol, and now Michelle Haywood. 7 ministers in 6 years, and each one of them has done nothing about getting the mobility scooters on a bus. It affects me. I want to go up to the NSC. They have a special rate for disabled people to be able to use the swimming pool and the gym and the spa. You know, I can't access that unless I go in my car, which is costing a fortune to go up and down. Why should I have to do that when other people without a disability can get on a bus and I can't?
That's Eric Corkish talking to us there. Well, the Infrastructure Minister, Dr Michelle Haywood, says her department is working to create 3 new mobility scooter-friendly bus routes, and she hopes they'll be open and usable by the end of this year.
The Route 21 trial that we did has turned out to be a great success. So at the moment we are currently evaluating the routes from Douglas to Ramsey, Douglas to Peel and Douglas to the south. There are a couple of ways that you can get onto a bus if you're using a wheelchair or a mobility scooter, either the castle curb, which sits level with the bus, or the need for deploying a ramp from the bus. And so we're having to evaluate all the stops on those routes to work out where it is that people could actually, if they were in a mobility scooter, get on or get off of the bus. Highways are busy looking at the height of the curbs to check if it's okay and it's safe to deploy ramps. And we know the location of the castle curbs, and what we need to do is put together information for the users of those routes. And that work is underway at the moment. So we're working at pace, and I'm hoping that those routes will be opened up by the end of the year. We've discussed recently at department meeting that it's not acceptable to hold out for perfection and say every bus stop has to be fully accessible. What we need to be able to do is to say, well, what can we achieve, and start opening up to that.
That is the DOI Minister, Dr Michelle Haywood, with hopefully some good news about mobility scooter access on bus routes. In fact, we're going to hear more from the Minister on a separate subject in just a moment.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Nothing to report on the police pages as you head home this evening, so hopefully all pretty clear. The mountain road still closed from Brandywell to the Cregna Bar. That's for that drainage work. It was supposed to open on Monday, but that closure has been extended to no later than 6 p.m. next Thursday. That's the 23rd of October. Businesses on the mountain open as usual. Temporary lights on Tremode Road in Douglas. That's near Douglas Avenue 24 hours a day. There are also temporary lights on Braddon Road, just up from Braddon Bridge, and the Mount Murray back road still closed for the building of a concrete underpass. All looking good down at the airport, and the latest with the steam packet, the Manxman due in at around 5:30, heading out again for Heysham at 7:15. The Manannan on its way to Liverpool, also getting there about 5:30, and heading here at the same time, getting into Douglas at 10 p.m.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre with 1 year's free engine warranty from Castrol. Get more with Quayside.
It's 14 minutes past 5, and we're going to hear again from the DOI Minister, as I say, because her department has apologised to 137 of its housing tenants over the tone of a recent letter asking them to pay rent arrears. Now, an issue was identified which meant some residents were paying their rent towards the end of the month instead of on the 1st, and that goes against the Housing Authority's tenancy agreement. However, correspondence sent out by the department highlighting this issue is said to have caused a lot of distress. Dr Michelle Haywood has been talking to Lewis about it.
On behalf of the department and the housing agency, we're sending out an apology to tenants, some of the tenants in DOI housing who have been paying their rent on the the 25th of the month, and they've been paying a few weeks in arrears. So on the 25th of October, you pay your rent for October. That's against the tenancy agreement that everyone signs that says you pay your month's rent in advance, so it should be paid on the 1st of the month. And we put in a new billing system a few years ago and didn't sort out this problem at the time. Unfortunately, a letter was sent out that was quite factual but quite blunt and didn't recognise that many of these tenants have been our tenants for years. They have regular payments being made. They've never been in arrears at all. And what we were asking them to do was pay the extra bit to bring them back so they were on the 1st of the month and effectively make 2 months' payments. There's never a good time to ever send that message in the sort of run up to Christmas, if I can mention the Christmas word now. Really not a good time. And we know that it caused a lot of distress in a lot of people who manage their finances very carefully and would have never considered themselves to be a bad debtor. And indeed, they are not bad debtors. They are our valued tenants. And I absolutely sincerely apologise on behalf of the department for any distress that these letters have caused. What would be happening now is that we'll be contacting those tenants individually, be speaking to them about the circumstances and speaking to them about what the solution looks like.
Timeline-wise, how long are we talking between these letters being sent out and an issue being identified? In realistic terms, how many sleepless nights might these tenants have had over these letters?
It's been about a week, I think, since the first letters went out. They will all be receiving a letter over the next couple of days with the apology and offering to work with them and talk it through with them and their individual circumstances. Because you're right, everyone's circumstances will be different. It will have had a different effect on every of them, but I am truly sorry that we've caused them distress.
That is the Infrastructure Minister, Dr. Michelle Haywood. And you can find more of that interview as a newscast. That's in the podcast section of Manx Radio's website. 16 minutes past 5. Well, plans have been lodged for a new Iceland retail outlet at the Spring Valley Trading Estate in Braddon. Christian has the details on this.
A planning application submitted to the Department of Environment, Food and Agriculture by the Isle of Man Development Company seeks full approval for the construction of a 1,247 square metre retail warehouse with associated parking, access, servicing and landscaping works. According to the application, the site on Cool Road was previously occupied by vacant trade units now being demolished. The proposal would see the number of parking spaces increase from 40 to 72, with drainage, utilities and landscaping all included within the scheme. Pre-application discussions were reportedly held with planning officers earlier this year. The development would not alter existing site levels and is not located within a flood risk area or conservation zone. If approved, the outlet would operate under the Food Warehouse by Iceland brand, a large format retail concept offering frozen and ambient groceries, household items and bulk buy goods. Manx Radio has approached Iceland for comment.
Christian Jones reporting there. So any thoughts on that? 166 177 studio at manxradio.com. I'm just intrigued as what to ambient groceries are. 17 and a half minutes past 5. A Ramsey MHK is renewing calls for a major overhaul of the Isle of Man's rating system. Now, he brought forward reform proposals to Tynwald in July. This is Laurie Hooper. But they failed to gain support, with government saying the issue should be left to the next administration. But Mr Hooper insists only a full shift to a capital value model will deliver meaningful change.
The All Ireland rate isn't actually going to solve any problems. The problem you have at the moment is the rating system itself is broken, and everyone knows this. If you have got a two-bed house in Kirkmichael, it's got a different rateable value to the exact same two-bed house in Ramsey or Douglas, and that's the problem. So even if you had an all-Ireland rate, you'd still be paying different amounts depending on where you lived. What needs to happen is a fundamental restructuring of our rate system, a capital model which is supported by the public. In the last consultation that was done, the local authorities support it. It works. It's not going to be too difficult to set up. Tynwald and the government have repeatedly rejected this thing that the public have said, that's the system we quite like. Can we have that system, please? And politicians have repeatedly said no, because it will be good, broadly speaking, for the towns, and it will push rates up in the parishes because they are being artificially kept low by the current rating system. And so there are lots of MHKs, I think, worried if they did the right thing for the island, which is to equalise the system, it might cost them their seats. And you don't get a lot of selfless politicians these days.
And what will be in it for the ratepayer, Laurie Hooper?
It's about fairness, ultimately. You've got people living with quite a lot of wealth paying exceptionally low rates, and you've got people who are very low income paying quite high rates by comparison. And so it is about redistributing the way we pay for things. But I think it also starts enabling local authorities and government to do more stuff. So if you've got a fair system that everyone accepts, it kind of works, then people are less funny about when you say, well, I might have to put your rates up a little bit, because people are confident it's being paid for fairly. But it is about that general sense of fairness. And when you have an unfair system, it's very difficult to move things along. So there was a debate very recently around swimming pool rates, for example, in Tynwald. And a number of local authority members stepped up and said, don't change the system because the system is fundamentally unfair. And so they were very nervous about increasing or changing the way rates were charged for swimming pools because the underlying system was fundamentally broken. And so you can't change anything because the system's broke. But we can't change the system because it's too difficult. And that's the problem. So actually the fact we have a broken system is stopping us changing anything else that is connected.
That is the Ramsey MHK Laurie Hooper. He was speaking on Man in Line this week. You can listen back to the full programme as a podcast or watch it on our social media or YouTube page. 5:20 now. Ramsey commissioners will be creating a long-term strategy for Morag Park to provide a vision for its future. The board member, June McGuinness, says future-proofing will put the commissioners in a stronger financial position to support any changes to the area.
Morag Park is the absolute jewel in Ramsey, if not the north. It's a wonderful facility filled with a lot of great assets, and I think it's easy to take for granted what we are so lucky to have. And what I want to do is, by introducing a more strategic 5, 10, 25-year plan, have set in stone some forward-thinking ideas to ensure that we aren't just settling for what we have, but we can actually make sure that it stays the jewel of the Isle of Man, the best park in the Isle of Man.
What would you like to see it include?
I'm very open-minded. I think that the whole purpose of this document is we can look at things and say, well, if the play park's absolutely fine as it is, we can keep what's there and sort of stick to what we know. But if we see opportunities to expand it, to improve upon, I think I've been very clear on record of saying that I think our crazy golf area could do with a bit of investment. But if by doing this plan we are looking further ahead so that we aren't just reactive 1 year, we can think about doing it in 5 or 10 years.
What benefit do you see this report and project having for residents and ratepayers, obviously, of the town?
Anything that forward plans means that we will be in a far better financial position to put things in place rather than not do things on an annual basis because it would be a one-off rate rise. We can look to project our development and know what it is we want to do with it and give that opportunity for the public to feed in as well.
That is the Ramsey Commissioner, June McGuinness. He was talking to local democracy reporter Emma Draper there after their meeting last night. Now, an exhibition looking at how Kirkmichael has developed over the years shows some areas have seen significant growth while others are pretty much unchanged. Michael Heritage hopes its past and present event highlights the importance of the village throughout the years. Mike Clegg from the organisation has been talking to Simon Clark.
It's just fantastic to see the fields in the centre of the village, which are now housing estates, of course, and the Glenwillan boating lake in full action.
And the
wonderful
viaduct going across.
The viaduct across, yes.
The interesting one as well, you can see that the Mitre, which I think still holds the oldest pub on the island.
Well, it claims to. There might be other pubs are available who probably have similar claims. No one really knows with any great accuracy which is the oldest pub on the island. The some down south would probably claim to be some of the oldest, but certainly the Mitre Hotel has a very rich history and is one of the early pubs.
When you get to set these exhibitions up here, looking at probably photos that are maybe you haven't seen before even. I mean, what's caught your eye this year, Mike?
Oh gosh, that's a difficult one, isn't it? I think, like you say, the photos from the air, really, some of those dating back, suddenly realise how much the village has changed in the last 40, 50 years. Parts of it we can go through and look at Greystone's cottage opposite the pharmacy, for instance, which is one of the oldest little cottages in the village, has barely changed at all in the last 200 years. And yet you've got large swathes of land which were once a football pitch, but it's now a housing estate. And there are quite a lot of changes, but there are also certain aspects which have barely changed at all.
That is Mike Clegg from Michael Heritage talking to Simon Clark. That was in the latest episode of Countryside. That's available now as a podcast at manxradio.com. Absolutely love those old photographs. And it is an annual event, and there will be some photos and videos that you've probably never seen before, so well worth going along to Kirkmichael and having a look at those. It is 24 and a half minutes past 5. Sport time now. now with our sports editor, Rob Pritchard. Nearly forgot your name.
Fast am I. Starting off, Isle of Man cyclist Matthew Bostock will represent Great Britain at the UCI Track World Championships next week. The Island rider is one of 7 competitors named in the men's endurance squad for the event, taking place in Santiago in Chile between the 22nd and 26th of October. In total, 22 athletes will fly the British flag, as the national squad will also be represented in the men's sprint, women's endurance and women's sprint races. The UCI describes the championships as its leading annual event for track cycling, with 22 titles up for grabs, 11 for men and 11 for women. Separately, so far this season, Bostock has also put in a number of impressive performances in road racing events during 2025. They include 2 victories and a further 2 podiums during the 2025 UK National Circuit Championships and a 3rd place finish in the men's criterium of the 2025 British National Road Championships. He was also part of the Great Britain squad for the 2025 Tour of Britain in September. In equestrian, Isle of Man rider Yasmin Ingham played a key role as Great Britain won the final leg of this year's FEI Eventing Nations Cup last weekend. The Manx competitor, along with GB teammates Laura Collett, Caroline Harris and Tom Jackson, surged to victory at Bacchello in the Netherlands on Sunday the 12th of October with just 97.0 penalty points. It meant they finished top of the standings and with a significant gap to runners-up France on 122.4 points, whilst Belgium completed the top 3 and 3rd on 128.0. Well, following that final round of the 2025 series, Great Britain finished 3rd overall on 340 points, whilst France claimed 2nd place on a 390, just behind series winners Germany on 400. And in powerlifting, the Isle of Man has produced its first ever world champion. Janet Pam, representing Great Britain, took gold in the 84 kg class of the women's classic event of the World Masters Powerlifting Championships in Cape Town in South Africa. She topped her division with 12 points ahead of Michelle Kane of the USA on 9, whilst Pam's GB teammate Lisa Harrington finished 3rd on 8. Manx Powerlifting is congratulating Pam on her achievement on social media, saying, "To see one of our own standing on the world stage, wearing those medals and that smile, it's proof of what hard work, belief and heart can achieve."
That's amazing, isn't it? We've just produced some fantastic athletes in all disciplines, so huge congratulations to her. I didn't really forget your name, Rob, honestly. I didn't.
No offence taken.
Just a little bit. That is pretty much all from Update this evening. Thank you very much indeed for your company. Just want to remind you, we've got this survey running on manxradio.com at the moment, and it's all about election 2026. What do you think are the main issues that we should be looking at when we are planning our election coverage over the next few months? Just head over to the website. It pops up. It only takes a couple of minutes, and if you fill it in, then you will be helping to shape that coverage. Coming up next, it's an Island Life special tonight with Amy Griffiths. It's on the subject of AI and how it's impacting various industries. A really fascinating listen. Then Greatest Hits with Michelle Kane from 6. At 9, it's a little light music with Morris Powell, and Rianne will be with you with After Hours from 10. Whatever you're doing this evening, have a good one. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.